There is a tentative deal that has been worked out by conferees, 17 of them, Republicans, Democrats, House and Senate members. It calls for $1.4 billion in border security. It is not the $5 billion President Trump wanted to fund the wall. However, it would avert a shutdown if it's signed by the president, as obviously passed by the House and Senate before then. Let's talk about it with Representative Paul Mitchell. Congressman Mitchell represents the 10th Congressional District in Michigan. He is tweeting at Rep. Paul Mitchell and is with us. Congressman, welcome. Thanks for being here today.
Good morning, Tim. How are you?
Good. First blush, yay, nay on this particular piece of legislation?
Well, I think I call this the good, the bad, and the ugly is my best term for this. I mean, the good news is we got $1.4 billion in fencing rather than in a wall rather than zero, which is what Nancy was calling for us. At least we recognize that it's important and it's not immoral to have a wall. That's, I guess, progress. We stopped defining what it is. The bad is that we continue to struggle with the idea that we want to reduce detention beds, and the ugly is we continue to have a discussion about effectively open borders. So, I mean, we haven't yet gotten to resolution on securing the nation and providing both border security and giving the tools we need to Customs and Border Protection and ICE to deal with people that get in the country illegally. It's a significant problem. 90% of the ICE arrests last year had a criminal conviction in their home country before they arrived here. So it's a problem.
Think the president should sign it?
I think the president will sign it. I think, let's be honest about it. We have a lot of other things to do besides continue to fight on this. We started before Christmas. We went 35-day shutdown. I mean, at some point in time, I think the president will use other tools to enhance border security. He can reprogram funding. Other presidents have done it. I think about 58 times they've reprogrammed the deobligated funds and used them for things they believe were necessary. And I think that may well happen. And I support doing that.
How does this play out in your district?
I think it plays well in my district. I even had people during the shutdown that were in Customs and Border Protection or ICE that live in my district who said, we've seen shutdowns before. We believe the border needs to be secured. We have issues, and they support it. Now, obviously not everybody. I've got my share of what I call haters on Facebook who are routinely on there. They're fun. But, you're going to do what I believe is the right thing, and the right thing is to enhance our border security and support ICE. The Democrats came into conference proposing to reduce the funding for ICE investigators by 81%, Tim. Think about that. To reduce it by 81%. I mean,
whatever negotiations were on in the positioning statements, and, Speaker Pelosi at one point did say $1, but I don't think any Democrat took that seriously. And there is $1.4 billion in there, but it's not the $5 billion the president wanted. But still, you think that he's going to sign it?
I believe he will. If you listen to the rally that he had in El Paso, you listened to the comments yesterday after he met with Senator Shelby. It clearly doesn't thrill him. It doesn't thrill me either. I think there are other tools the president has at his option that he will exercise to move funds that are not being spent to additional border security. I'm sure the Democrats will scream and holler about it, and we'll have one more drama on our hands here in Washington. But as you know, this place lives on drama.
Your place, your district, you're the thumb of Michigan, right?
That's correct. Yep, northern Macomb County and out through the thumb.
So obviously you're also looking at other things, including legislation that you've introduced, something called the Tax Cuts and Jobs Middle Class Enhancement Act. I ask this question, and I want you to tell us what the act does, but in the context of recent stories that people are finding a little bit of a surprise in that they're not getting the kind of refund from the IRS that they're used to, or they're not getting any refund. They're actually owing money this time around, and they're wondering what the heck happened. I thought we were going to be the beneficiaries of this new tax cut program. Tell us what's going on.
Well, I think what's going on is you had IRS just released some data that it's a pretty small sample that they're looking at, given the shutdown delayed a lot of filings, people asking questions, things like that. The other thing that happened was that withholdings were adjusted automatically during the year, which means that they shouldn't. The ideal place to be, frankly, is you don't owe any money and they don't have your money they've been holding for a year. Now, that doesn't necessarily make people happy that have gotten refunds in the past and used them to go to Disney World, or to replace their refrigerator, all the other things that people do. But
it's kind of savings program for some people, I guess. it's kind of a savings program for some people. It's like, well, I'm paying my taxes, and at the end of it, I'll get this. But I hear your point is that, why are you going to give the government money for a year, and then at the end of that year or whatever period of time it's collected, then you're going to get some of it back. But you could have had this all the time. But that's not the way a lot of people look at it. They're just surprised to see what is taking place now. So what would the Tax Cut and Jobs Middle Class Enhancement Act, is that anything that would address this, or what is that about?
Well, it would increase the individual deduction for individuals and families, so that they would, in fact, again, pay tax on less of their income. It would also make permanent the medical expense deduction, so that it makes that permanent, enhances that, and it helps with child credit refundability. That is, the bill would make the child tax credit refundable up to $2,000 per child, rather than $1,400 per child. I think one of the biggest things facing families is the cost of child care when they work, and there are a lot of two-parent families, as you well know. I lived in one a long time ago, and the reality is that the cost of child care really eat into their income. We want to enhance that and obviously phase it down as incomes go up for people, but just make that so that they have more of their money if they choose to go to work.
Any interest in a sponsor from the other side of the aisle?
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly hope we can do more that's bipartisan. As you know, the school resource officer bill that I put together was, in fact, bipartisan, and we have a pretty long and extensive co-sponsor list for that. I certainly hope for tax cuts we will. The original tax cuts were pretty partisan. It was pretty party line, and that they've taken that position that they don't want to talk about anything about taxes except, apparently, according to AOC, a 70% tax on those that are wealthy, and other tax increases. The reality is we've seen the economy grow with tax cuts. We've seen employment up significantly. We've seen incomes up. So I think the idea that we're going to tax our way to success in this country is not the best answer, but some people believe that strongly.
Yeah, there's also Senator Elizabeth Warren has floated the idea of a wealth tax, and as Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, it's 70%, not just on wealthy, but on people earning over a certain amount of money, which is like $70 million a year. But even that, if you taxed all those people at the rates she was talking about, and it's even with a marginal rate, it's still not going to add but more than maybe, it's going to add billions every year, but it's not nearly the kind of money that I think people are talking about in terms of funding programs. But we can leave the details of that for something else. That's a debate that's going to rage on. I wonder what kind of chance you might have. And I bring that up with your bill because I'm thinking, well, this, sounds like right in the wheelhouse of the middle class. You're talking about raising the deduction for people, for couples, also making sure the medical expense deduction is made permanent, the child tax credit. That sounds like something that could have appeal across the aisle.
I would hope so. It also makes permanent the individual provisions of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Those, because of some idiosyncrasies in the Senate, end at the end of 2025. I want to make them permanent. The Senate and their rules, who knows? It does that as well, which I think is critically important. I think it should be something that is bipartisan. We need to reduce taxes on those. I grew up in at best a middle-class family. Dad built trucks in the line, and Mom worked at the Salvation Army. I know that the taxes eat into a big part of income. So the reality is that we want to support people that go to work and contribute to our country. This would do that, and I'm certainly encouraging people on the other side of the aisle to join in that effort. Obviously, we need to get down beyond this whole drama over DHS appropriations and border security so we can get into other policy issues. I'm sure we'll talk about the Green New Deal as well, so that'll be all kinds of fun.
Yeah, and also I think some people are holding out the possibility of something on infrastructure, too, and you're on transportation and infrastructure. I'm not sure. There may be some room there, right?
I think there is. There's a lot of discussion. I've talked with the Chairman DeFazio about it and the ranking member about it. I think we do need to deal with it. The problem with infrastructure right now is we have all these silos. We have money to theoretically pay for highways, although not enough. We have money for airports. We have all these little silos, and we don't deal with a lot of parts of infrastructure. We don't deal with how we address rural broadband. We don't adequately deal with water and wastewater. And there's no funding stream for it, and we rob from Peter to pay Paul in terms of doing this. I'm putting together an idea for a federal infrastructure investment fund. And to put together an investment fund that we work with states and municipalities to invest in their infrastructure if they want to invest in it as well. So we can.
That's not new, right? Is that like the infrastructure bank that had been talked about a few times?
I don't know the details of the infrastructure bank, but it's somewhere in that you would have it advance funded. So if you had a shutdown, you weren't interrupting highway construction and bridges and all the other things, which is that's another problem with the federal appropriations processes. These things are shut down, or continuing resolutions that just mess up projects.
Well, we'll see how it goes. For the meantime, it does sound like we're not going to have another shutdown. And I think America is quite relieved about that. So we appreciate you being with us. Congressman, thanks for being on.
Well, have a good day, and thanks for having me.
You too. Representative Paul Mitchell represents the 10th District in Michigan, the thumb, if you will. He's a Republican joining us here to talk about the spending deal and a few other things, including his legislation that he has proposed. And he is tweeting at Rep. Paul Mitchell.